Let's do it.
Okay, how you guys doing? It's Jeremy and it's Pat. It's probably just Jeremy who's gonna be rewatching these for a while, and then eventually I'm gonna start promoting these a little bit more. I haven't even really told Pat. I kind of just pretend to have these conversations so I can have an excuse to talk to him. But no, eventually I think I'm gonna have a Filipino assistant chop these up and edit them a little bit to make them a little bit more of a like professional production, not professional, but just a little bit more than just straight cut and go. And yeah, I'm excited for that. So I guess that gets me thinking a little bit. Why did I just say a Filipino? Like, why does it have to be a Filipino?
Well, you gotta delineate between, some other type of individual.
Yeah, no, but
who's
also
editing.
I specifically said Filipino because I have currently a Filipino virtual assistant. I've had one for a couple of years now. I'm gonna try and have more. It's kind of like the best thing ever. So why am I bringing this up, or what's the segue? What am I really getting into? I have a Filipino assistant. They range in cost. You can get one as cheap as $1 an hour. I pay mine. I don't know if I want to share, but I'm gonna share $3 an hour. So for $3 an hour, which is like, it's insane. I don't even, it's like too good to be true. The worker I have is better than me, more skilled than me in a lot of things, more organized than me, better at email, better at Excel, better at a lot of things. And she gets paid $3 an hour to do tasks. I'd say the hardest part or the most difficult or the only obstacle is really like getting them started, training them, finding the one that fits well with you, whatever. Once you find one though, it's a game changer. You get, I hate to say it, but like, I don't think a lot of Americans have great work ethics. The people I've come in contact with through this like service or finding virtual assistants in the Philippines all have great work ethics, all like want to work, eager to work, are self-sufficient. It's just wild. So it gets me thinking. There's a lot of talk about the minimum wage being upped to $15 an hour. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of against $15 an hour national minimum wage. I'm all for paying employees $20 an hour, $30 an hour by choice though. I don't think anything should be forced. I think when things are forced, the idea is good, the intentions are good, but they end up having negative reactions. For example, I eventually want to have employees in America. If it's a $15 minimum wage, that's gonna probably prolong me from ever getting a employee in America. I'm gonna try and get virtual employees in cheaper areas as long as I possibly can, because that would just be expensive. What do you think, Pat?
Well, the problem is that we aren't creating good, like enough good jobs in America. And what I mean by that is jobs that are actually keeping up with the realistic array of costs. And by the way, just to kind of follow up on what you said, as far as lazy Americans, productivity amongst American workers has never been higher for less money proportional to history. And so, and there's very complicated metrics to this. And so, but I don't necessarily want to get off the topic. You asked me whether I'm for 15. I'm absolutely for it. In my opinion, by the time we get it passed, 15 is not going to be enough for the average worker. And really the big reason why we need this mandate is that the market's not taking care of it like just on its own. And so proponents of capitalism say that there's no reason to install this stuff, because if the market demanded 15 an hour for a given job, it would create it. The problem is that there is a corollary where certain markets are shrinking and are not keeping up with what people should be paid, quote, should be paid. And all that means is like, well, what is the average person's costs? And if they are working a position, it needs to be able to cover those costs.
What about this though? Like, what if I feel like the argument is a little bit a lot of people's skills aren't living up to what they need to be. And like, I feel like a lot of people think they just should be paid a certain amount just because they exist. And it's like, I think there should be universal basic income. I think everyone should have like just money for rent, money for food. I think food should more or less be free. Like your basic staples should be free. There's no reason why we don't have an abundance of food that's just readily available for everyone. I'm all for that. But workers should have to produce. And I think just to like talk about the first point you said is like productivity is at an all-time high. I would argue that a lot of that comes from technology. And in 10 years, there's going to be half the workforce is going to be non-existent and productivity is going to be even higher. Why is that? Because of automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all of that. So it's like, we're going to have cars that are going to be delivering things without any work put forth. So it's like, I feel like both of us can kind of be right. Productivity can be at an all-time high with American laziness at an all-time high as well.
So let me clarify. So overall, yeah, productivity is really high. I was actually talking about American workers have never been more productive. And American workers have produced the greatest amount of wealth proportional now that the world has ever seen at any point in history, as far as in modern times when we've been actually be able to measure this stuff. So I think that they should have a slice of the pie. And any employer that argues, first of all, there will absolutely be job losses. So any Democrat or liberal that tells you, that's not going to happen, there will be job losses. The turnaround, though, is that the overall state of the country and the global economy will blow past those short-term shortfalls, and it will absolutely revolutionize both the consumer market, happiness. I think we'll see productivity even go higher, and in my opinion, it could actually, we could start biting into the lack of social mobility that we have seen settled in as being concrete now. There is no social mobility, and the problem with the skills thing is also this is a systematic thing. So right, this isn't just about people's individual choices, because a person has to have agency, right? They need to take responsibility for themselves, but empowerment is almost non-existent in this country. You basically have a set of choices. You either go to college, go into debt, and hope that you can find a white-collar job, or you go into a service industry job, and those don't pay anything, and you end up having to work several of them, and you still end up in debt because costs are what they are. I think absolutely, Jer, looking at a universal basic income and doing it properly, right? So there are proponents like Andrew Yang, who's running for mayor in New York right now, who are talking about universal income. The problem is, if you look into his platform, he wants to take away certain other social safety net mechanisms that if you take them away, his universal income idea becomes complete crap. That people will actually end up poorer, more food insecure, more likely to not be able to maintain a stable living condition, and it's actually going to drive people deeper into debt and poverty. So
what are some of the things he's taking away?
So he wants to look at Social Security benefits. So like an individual would have to choose. They would have to look in certain welfare programs, and I saw that was one of your prompts. And that's kind of like a whole nother thing. I don't want to necessarily get into the welfare state or whatever. My point is that there are reforms to be made in the social safety net. The thing is, though, you can't just remove it and not have a comprehensive, substantive plan in place in order to make up for the life or death scenarios that it'll create when you take that away. I mean, vacuums, have to be filled with something. And so, my qualm is that, all right, if it's not $15 an hour, then, well, we need to be looking at, and again, the problem in this country is we're on like this one topic. All right, we got to do $15 an hour. It's that, and then like 27 different other things. We have to stop this pipeline from grade school to college for everybody. It's a complete scam. It doesn't make any sense. It is created our generation is the most in debt of any modern generation, and there aren't enough jobs, and we get on the other side, and then no wonder you have so many young people who become radicalized, become angry. They start making bad decisions. They're looking for belonging and a sense of community in all the wrong places, whether it's white nationalism or just being out in the street and blaming all the wrong people. And so it just feeds into all this unhappiness, and it's not helping anybody. We need to be real with kids from the word go. And that means reforming the way we fund schools and how we're already in a specialized society. So start teaching people trades. And I don't mean separating kids out, because you got to be careful about how that, you start creating all these exclusive and kind of isolated communities. But we need to we need to go forward into really zeroing in on a person's skill set, recognizing that people learn differently. And you've studied this, as far as a teacher goes. But it needs to start from the word go. So, we need to have early childhood education starting. The kids need to grow up seeing that their school, that based off of the arbitrariness of where they were born and what they look like and what their zip code is, doesn't dictate the quality of their education or the attention that's paid as far as what type of jobs are available to them, and that they're given choices and opportunities, and they have agency to make these decisions for themselves. But we don't do that right now. And so by the time people become adults, we're talking about $15 an hour. Well, it's like, it's like Burger King or nothing for some people.
You make a lot of great points. I don't disagree with anything that you say. The thing is, one of the things though that I guess comes to mind though is like, I feel like overall we're pretty spoiled, and I know there's people who are hungry. I know there's people who don't have good shelter. There's people who aren't like the safest, but generally speaking, like if you live in America, you have a pretty good system going on. And like the fact that we have access to internet, maybe not 24/7, maybe not always fast, but most people can get to the internet in a given day, to me is like, I don't know, that's huge. And I feel like a lot of people don't, and like I'm one of those people too. So like I'm a little hypocritical with it, but like a lot of people don't want to do certain jobs because it doesn't fulfill them, which I understand, because you should want to do a job that's fulfilling, that you enjoy. Most of the world though doesn't even have a job opportunity, let alone one that they get to choose that they like. Most of the world is doing something as a means to an end so that they can eat that night or whatever. Where in America, and I don't have like studies or anything like that, but from my experience of like my network of, hey, stop it, damn dog, of my network of friends and like students that I've taught, there's a lot of people that I will talk to that will like refuse to take SEPTA because it's public transportation, or refuse to work at McDonald's because it's McDonald's, or refuse to work at the stadiums or the airport because it has this negative connotation of working at the airport. And it's like, I don't know, I think that's a little wrong. I have more money than probably the average 30-year-old or however old I am, whatever. 2 years ago, I was working for $8 an hour on Saturday mornings at 6 a.m. I didn't want to do that forever, but I wanted extra cash. And it was like, where can I get extra cash? This is the only opportunity in front of me right now. And I'm going to take it. And I made $8 an hour, which was cool. It's not a lot, but it was an extra 40, 50 bucks on a Saturday morning. Otherwise, if I didn't do that, I would have spent 40 or $50 eating something, whatever. I learned about a kitchen and like how to cook and stuff. So it was like useful knowledge. And I actually met 3, 4 people in the kitchen, one of which works for me now, one of which is like an acquaintance. We did a project together. So I got a lot out of it, not just the money, where I have like a lot of these people that I'm thinking of who literally refuse to work for $9 an hour, $8 an hour, because they're above it, but then they end up not working for anything. And it's like, yo, what skills do you have? And I have more empathy. I think I'm talking a little bit
towards a certain group. I think they're, yeah.
It's like, hey, learn a new skill. A lot of time you don't need to work the $7, $8 an hour job for too long. You do it for 3 months to prove to your employer. If you are a hard worker, you're not going to be making $8 an hour for more than 2 months, 3 months. They're going to give you 9 or 10 quickly. And if you do what you need to, then you're going to be making 11 or 12 pretty quickly. I'm confident you can move up the ladder fairly quickly. And I know there's people who have it harder and are a little bit more stuck, but I think that like a lot of people use those people who have it really hard as like as an excuse, and it's like, hey, that's an excuse for them, but you actually, I think, can make more if you actually put the effort or got new skills or whatever it might be.
Again, it's tough, like it's kind of like an imperfect conversation to have, because like you're right, that we all know, all Americans know that there is a substantial amount of the population that is like that they don't like people that don't look like them coming into the country. They're against immigration, but like, are you going to pick the nation's fruit? You know what I mean? No, you're not going to pick the nation's fruit. So stop trying to use immigration and economic policy as a guise for your bigotry. Right. And there's also a socialization problem. Let's admit it. I came up in a household, you came up in a household, a lot of people, and again, I'm generalizing, and I'm not trying to attack anyone's parents or teachers or administrators, but a lot of us in the middle and upper middle class came up in environments that looked down on and what I would call an honest day's work. For sure. I still think that a lot of the honest day's work in this country is paid dog shit. And I'm sorry for cursing, but it is. I think a lot of people, you bust your butt and you make 10 bucks. So I worked at a country club just hauling trays. Okay. And it was a non-tipped job. So it was one of the few kind of like food service industry jobs that I had where I really didn't like the pay. I got 10 bucks an hour. This was in like 2007 or something like that. And the problem is, it's not just the 10 bucks that I was earning. It was how much proportionally was taken out in taxes. And so, by the time Uncle Sam comes in and takes it out, it's like, dude, I'm making 10 bucks an hour. Why am I getting like 30% of my paycheck taken out? Because 30% to someone making 10 bucks an hour is such a radically different number proportional to like what their costs are and the life that they're probably living than somebody who's making $400,000. And and people say, whoa, the person making $400,000, they got there, they have multiple degrees, they probably went into debt, they went to harder schools, they're doing a trade that only a certain finite amount of people, can do. But the problem is that our policies and the way we think about this has to be coming from, it's called the veil of ignorance. And so you can't necessarily worry about, people, the type of person or the mindset they have. You set policy blind to who you're talking about in order to instill the most equitable system. And as far as like the internet and access to stuff, I think the real problem that we're talking about is you could get to 70% in this country access to internet. The problem is that there are communities right next to those communities that all have internet and all have the money for that internet and all have devices right next to them that have nothing. And that arbitrariness is really the problem, because we're all living right next to each other, and it is systematically oppressive, and it defeats people before they've even begun, in order to have like whole swaths of people that are living like they're in a third world. And with all the wealth that we produce, it is cruel and unusual for us to say the market's going to figure it out, individuality. And that's not what you're saying. I'm talking about a larger kind of outlook, kind of like an outlook of this country, is that it's either one way or the other. Either the government's covering everything. It's like, why can't there be a more community-based, less giant programs, less top-down solutions? Why can there not be more community empowerment and more people taking agency of their lives with a little bit of help? It just needs to be a little bit easier in this country to figure out who you are, how you want to live your life, how you can contribute to your community, and then how what path can I take there in the most productive and healthy way possible. Instead, we work people to death. They get paid nothing. There is no retirement age anymore. People are just working and working and working until they die. And it becomes incredibly hard to chase and achieve that dream, which, by the way, the dream doesn't even necessarily exist. We even need to re-examine the way we're raising our children and the goals that they're setting for themselves. Because owning a home for a regular person right now, it almost doesn't make any sense. And especially when you have crumbling infrastructure, when you have the arbitrary nature of the way we tax ourselves, and the quality of schools and care and other services that you have access to. And so my point is that it's all over the place. And we keep thinking that if we do this one thing, it's everything. And our political system and the way we all think about it and talk to each other has completely broken down to the point where we can't think comprehensively. We can't do big things. We can't just kind of turn stuff on its head and start thinking about a healthy, productive way to deal with this stuff.
Yeah, what's called? I think it's actually President Biden calling me right now. He wants me to relay all of these insights to him. So that was super useful. I like that. I'm excited to continue this conversation next week. We won't have the same exact topic, but I feel like we'll do something a little bit related, because we could talk about that.
I'd love to get into lighter stuff, I'd love to, whatever, man. No, but I love shooting the shit with you, dude. It's never.
Yeah, no. I love that. I think we both come from very similar mindset, but at the same time, very opposing mindsets. So it always makes for it's just interesting to like hear what you think about some things. Opened up my eyes, so it's pretty cool. Dope. So great talking to you. I'll talk to you next week. Have a great week. Give a kiss to Brownie for me.
I will. And, tell Bodie said I hear him barking. Tell him it's all good, man.
It's dinner time, and he wants to talk to Biden too. He's got some.
I'm sure he does.
A little barking to do about the vaccine, why it's so difficult for him to get.
Yeah, seriously.
But, all right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, dude.
I love you.